Hi everyone, thanks for being here and for your interest in this workshop. Welcome. My name's Susie Connor, I'm a writer, filmmaker, and I'm very glad to share this presentation on strong and simple writing techniques. This course is designed to demystify written communication techniques, whether you're giving a term paper, a class presentation, an online talk, communicating your story on social media, or another form of creative communication. This is especially for those of you who can think of nothing more torturous than sitting down to write. I'd like to start by acknowledging and offering my respect to the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the country on which the University of Sydney campus is located. I'm recording this here in Italy, but I'm still very much connected to that country of my home. As we engage in our learning, may we do so in ongoing acknowledgement of all aspects of the country on which it takes place. Aside from writing and making films, I'm also a PhD student here at the University of Sydney in the Gender and Cultural Studies department. I've previously been teaching at Western Sydney University and at cultural and film institutes in Berlin and around Europe. And I was meant to be teaching at Sydney University this semester, but then COVID hit. I've been freelancing for over a decade in the film and advertising industries, first as a TV and radio producer and later as a writer and creative. It's been interesting straddling the worlds of advertising, the arts, film, and academia. Sometimes it feels like I'm wearing about 8 different hats at once. The thing which unites these 8 different hats, which seems so very basic but is still worth saying, is that no matter what audience you're writing for and in what medium, it always has to be good writing. Okay, sure, you might say that's pretty obvious. But what ultimately makes good writing? Well, since you've come this far in life, you're obviously already a good communicator and writer, so we don't need to cover the basics that you've already covered a million times in school, like essay techniques, grammar, structure, spelling. What we will cover in this crash course are some fundamental principles that can be applied across any medium that you're working in to make sure that your ideas are translated for your audience in a way that is both true to what's in your head and to what your audience needs from you. In short, good writing is an accurate translation to the written word of the ideas in your head communicated in a way that demonstrates you know your audience well and the language that they understand. And by language, I don't mean English or Icelandic or Turkish, of course, but the language of what they need from you. So let's summarize. Good writing is a translation of the ideas in your head to a language that is empathetic to your audience. And that brings us to the purpose of this crash course. University degrees increasingly demand not just effective academic writing, but vocationally driven writing and professional level presentations. On top of this, outside of university and in our own projects, we're all expected to have our own brand, so to speak. Our social media presence that gives an effective or at least intriguing impression of who we are and what our work, projects, and life's purpose are all about. That's a lot of pressure, and it takes so many varied and competing skills to master. What I'd like to do in this course is to draw upon my professional experience in writing to present a guiding principle to you that you can use across all forms of writing and communication, no matter what your background or degree. The guiding principle covers all forms, including written texts, live presentations, online talks, social media or online campaigns, and content creation. What is paramount over and above all of the specific forms that you're writing in is your communication of your ideas, your ability to translate your ideas to a form that your audience will understand and engage with. If your audience doesn't connect with your content, no matter how good it seemed when you created it, it will fall on deaf ears. But how to begin writing? The absolute worst is that blank page or blank screen staring back at you, especially when it's the night before a massive deadline. Although it has all too many flaws, one thing which working in advertising has taught me is that there is never a blank page. There are always 4 questions to be answered, which will always fill that first scary page. These 4 questions will get you flowing onto writing and get you to write your actual piece in no time. Let's go through these 4 questions now. The 4 guiding principles. Number 1, the brief. What is the brief or task you've been given? Number 2, the format. What format does it need to be delivered in? Are there specific parameters to stick to that will help shape the communication to this format? Audience. What kind of audience do you need to communicate with? Benefit. How will this benefit the audience and me as a student or creator? Okay, so those 4 guiding principles once more. What is the brief? What is the format? Who is the audience? And what is the benefit for yourself and the audience? Okay, so let's get a bit interactive now and go through these questions for an assignment you currently have lurking. Going through these principles using a real example will help embed this in your memory. Okay, the brief. What's the brief? Summarize in your own words what the assignment is. This should include the deliverable or what you need to deliver, for example, an essay, the resources you'll draw upon, for example, the readings you've done so far for this semester, what you're communicating, say comparing magical realism in the novels of Virginia Woolf and Jeanette Winterson, and the basic intention behind the task to convincingly argue your stance on the comparison in the essay form. Remember, don't just copy and paste what your tutor has included as the task. This needs to be a summary in your own words. Format. Really think through the specificity of the form you are being asked to deliver the task in. You'll need to adhere to the conventions of that form in order to learn and to get a decent mark, of course. Sometimes you might be assigned to a task format you've never worked in before. Be sure to ask questions and do your research to clarify all guidelines and parameters of that form. Audience. At university, it's often the case that your client is the same as your audience. The standard example being that your tutor assigns you an essay and then they're the sole reader of that essay. But even if that's the case, it's always good practice to write bigger. Write as if your essay could be published in your favorite online journal or your app proposal will reach the hands of your favorite developer. The key here is imagination. Keep picturing that editor or developer and don't lose sight of impressing them with your ideas and the clarity of your communication with each and every sentence. Benefit. This is key whether you're writing a paper that will only ever be read by one person or that app proposal that you're hoping to get out to the wider world. The benefit is about how your audience will benefit as well as how you as the author or creator will benefit. Let's again use a really common example. Say you've been asked to write a lit review for your thesis. This benefit is that your supervisor can then gauge where you're at in terms of your knowledge and expertise in your field. The benefit to you as a writer of the lit review is that you can demonstrate all your hard research work so far and show how far you've come since beginning the research. You can also see where the gaps are in your knowledge and what further work you need to do to cover those gaps. Really working out the benefit of the piece for both the audience and yourself is absolutely key to communicating effectively. If it's of no benefit to anyone, then what's the point? But when you find that amazing benefit for you and the audience, even if it's a long-term benefit that you won't feel for some time, you're feeling motivated and purposeful, and it also feels a lot less writing this assignment is just pointless torture. So now, how do we adapt these techniques across all formats? Okay, so we've already been through the importance of empathy for your audience when writing written texts for university, whether that's an essay, a lit review, or a pitch. Okay, so now what else? When writing for live presentations, even if you're presenting text-based work such as a WIP for your thesis, authenticity is key. Your audience members will be with you in the room, COVID willing, and they will sense immediately if you believe in your own material or not. It's also easier to memorize your material so you can ad-lib and go on tangents rather than sticking exactly to your written script if you have really taken your material to heart. When you don't believe in what you're saying, not only will the attention of your audience waver, but your mind and even your eye contact will, making it harder for you to remember your key points and to maintain contact with your audience. Of course, I know it's hard to really believe in what you're presenting if the topic wasn't your choice or if it's a particularly dry subject, but there's always something within every topic you can be curious about and investigate more and find a way to express yourself through. And your audience will feel this and thank you for it. It's the same deal with online talks, although perhaps even more imperative because you don't have the benefit of authentic eye contact. A lot of video conferencing programs like Zoom and Microsoft Teams are exhausting to use for long periods of time because you don't get the dopamine hit that usually comes with connecting with a live audience. That real eye contact doesn't exist through laptop cameras, so either speaking to or listening from a laptop gives the illusion of human connection, but you never feel the chemical benefit in your brain. This leaves you craving for connection and feeling exhausted. So the more you can incorporate warmth, understanding, empathy, and even humor into writing for online talks, the less exhausting it will be for your audience to listen to and for you too as a presenter. In my opinion, it really is as simple as using your imagination to really picture the audience and presenting it for those people in mind. Even if you're only guessing who your audience might be, as long as you're writing for someone, that's fine. Just really picture and get to know in your imagination, and your writing will sparkle. Okay, so I've kept this title general so we can cover a lot here. I know that there are increasing demands placed across all disciplines on developing the skills to create content for assignments that go beyond the obvious media for each discipline. Last year, for example, I was teaching an advertising unit with a range of students from media, journalism, law, and accounting, for example. But one assignment involved hand drawing a poster advertisement and writing some copy for it. Many students were very daunted by having to draw and write in a way they hadn't before. Some of them even described the feeling as being in kindergarten again. But success in the assignment came from the principles we've gone through, especially the audience one. Good results came from those students who kept picturing specific audience members and impressing them with their ideas and the clarity of their communication. No matter if there's a format like advertising copy that they might never have worked with before, the very best results came from those students who took this one step further. Once they understood their audience, they could think about creating their poster around the benefits for that specific audience. One example was a poster advertising the new opening of a local coffee shop. The student researched their local audience and found that a high proportion were left-leaning politically, had high disposable incomes, and contributed a good proportion of that income to charity. The students' campaign then was to appeal to the audience through highlighting the benefits that were most likely to be relevant to their needs. The coffee was fair trade, organic, and single origin. This benefit to the audience being that they could purchase that coffee with good conscience and know that some of the profits would flow back to the coffee farmers themselves. Unfortunately, for a different audience, many of these benefits would fall on deaf ears. They might only see taste and price, for example, as key benefits. And any campaign to do with ethics would keep them away from the cafe altogether. As we've said, the same principles can be applied to any assignment you're given in any medium. And if nothing else, writing answers to these questions gets rid of that blank page and gets you out of a block and into a flow. So let's repeat them one last time. Brief. Write the task in your own words. Format. What needs to be delivered and what are the parameters? Audience. Imagine specifically who you're writing for. Benefit. What do you and the audience get out of you performing this task well? Keep reminding yourself of these benefits to keep yourself motivated. And that's it. Well, thanks everyone for making it to the end. This has been the written communication component of the 3-part Creative Comms Crash Course. Hopefully this guide will be helpful the next time you sit down to write. A transcript of this session will be available for download. Be sure to tune in to the other 2 components of this Creative Comms Crash Course. Thanks.